Horror at the Razzies. Yes, this organization recognizes my favorite movie genre from time to time. They nominated a lot of scary movies in their first two ceremonies in the early 80s, not as much in recent years. As I talked about in my last Razzie Top 10 video, I do believe many performances throughout the decades are unfairly nominated at the Razzies, and that includes many performances in the horror genre. I'm looking at you, Shelley Duvall, in The Shining. But let's be honest, there is the occasional performance that's not very good that the Razzies nominate and that I'm not going to make a stink about. What are some truly bad performances in the horror genre that the Razzies have recognized throughout the decades? When I was looking through the mini list, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to come up with a top 10, but you know what? I came up with 18 performances in scary movies that I think are pretty weak, and I narrowed those down to 10. Don't take this list too seriously, we're just gonna have some fun. Here is my list of the top 10 worst performances in the horror genre nominated at the Razzies. Here we go. Number 10, Jim Carrey, The Number 23.
Damn it! Didn't like my story, huh?
So I've talked on this channel a lot about how I think Jim Carrey deserves to be an Academy Award nominated actor. I love his performances in The Truman Show, Man on the Moon, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I love his early comedies. I really dug his performance on the Showtime TV series Kidding. But there was one performance he gave back in 2007 in a movie that is just god-awful, and that's The Number 23, co-starring Virginia Madsen and directed by Joel Schumacher. It's not really Jim Carrey's fault. I mean, I give the man credit for trying things in different genres that we're not expecting him to be in. But I don't know, trying to take Carrey seriously in a genre movie that has him playing like more than one character, one is a super intimidating figure. Like, that movie just didn't work at all. The screenplay really failed Carrey on that one. And he's definitely trying, but it's not a good performance, and it's a very bad movie. Number 9, Tera Reed, Alone in the Dark.
The app kind of use constellations to pinpoint a geographical location.
So most video game adaptations fail, and this is one of the worst ones of all time. Alone in the Dark, released in 2005 from director Uwe Boll. Like, this movie was torture. I thankfully skipped it in the theaters, but I remember just renting it one night, just like, oh, we'll give this one a try. I like Christian Slater. I was like, well, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's not as bad as the critics made it out to be. Oh boy. Like, oh my god, this movie is torturous. It is dull, it is not scary, and the performances are pretty bad in it. Tera Reed can be okay in certain things, like I like her performance in the horror film Urban Legend from 1998, and she's perfectly fine in the American Pie movies, but Alone in the Dark, she is way out of her element here. It is a very awkward, stiff performance, definitely one of her worst on film that I've seen. Alone in the Dark is a disaster of a movie, and Tera Reed is really phoning that performance in. Number 8, Louis Gossett Jr., Jaws 3D.
Why don't we blow it up?
Listen, nephew. It's a $2.5 million turbine that's not going to go up in smoke because of some damn fish. Now shut the pumps down.
It's amazing when you look at the diminishing returns of the Jaws sequels. Like, you have the 1975 original, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. Jaws 2 from 1978 is fine. Like, it's okay. And then you get to Jaws 3D, which is just so bland and stupid and not scary. The 3D effects have not aged well at all. I would still put it one notch above Jaws the Revenge, a movie you're going to be hearing about in a few minutes here, but Jaws 3D is awful. All the performances in it are pretty terrible. And Louis Gossett Jr., I mean, something funny that happens around this time is he wins his much-deserved Academy Award for An Officer and a Gentleman, and then he shows up in Jaws 3D in a thankless role. Again, it's not really his fault, it's more the script, it's the director. Like, Jaws 3 is a mess all the way through. But really, none of the performances help, and Gossett Jr. is just kind of bland and not adding much to this already spectacularly bad film. Number 7, Kim Basinger, Bless the Child.
Hello? Hello?
So So something that definitely did not help Kim Basinger's legacy as an Oscar winner for LA Confidential is that she followed that performance up with I Dreamed of Africa, and the second was a genre film, Bless the Child. The early 2000s was definitely a time where we got some religious horror films. There was Bless the Child, there was Lost Souls, The Exorcist got a director's cut re-release in theaters. Like, there was a bunch of that stuff coming out, and Bless the Child was bottom of the barrel. Like, it's not scary, it's so dumb. Christina Ricci is trying in a supporting role, I remember that. Kim Basinger can be pretty good in the right project. She is, of course, terrific in LA Confidential. But Bless the Child, she is like looking for direction while on camera. She doesn't know what she's doing in that movie. The character makes no sense. The plot is ridiculous. I don't know why she signed up for this. Maybe just for the paycheck. I don't know. But yeah, this movie is an unscary slog, and it's one of Kim Basinger's worst performances on film. Number 6, Sean Young, Dr. Jekyll, and Ms. Hyde.
Delight me.
It'll be my pleasure.
So Sean Young is someone whose film career started off with a lot of promise in projects like Blade Runner and No Way Out. But by the mid-90s, her roles are kind of drying up. I mean, my introduction to Sean Young was in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, a role that was problematic then and is very problematic now. And in 1995's Dr. Jekyll and Ms. Hyde, we get a similarly problematic movie in that Dr. Jekyll, played by Tim Daly, turns into a woman when he's Ms. Hyde, and that part is played by Sean Young. I'm not even sure if this movie went to theaters, but I remember watching it on cable, and it's just a mess. It's kind of embarrassing. It's got a pretty good cast, like there's some fun character actors in it, but Sean Young especially just looks to be there for the paycheck. It's a very bad performance. Number 5, Tom Cruise, The Mummy.
Just stop.
For the greater good.
I'm not interested in that at all. Okay.
Don't.
Okay.
Ninja.
We're just gonna take a minute, and we're all gonna come up with a new plan.
So as I talked about in a recent Razzie Top 10 video, I thought an unfair Razzie nomination for Tom Cruise was War of the Worlds. I think he's very good in that Steven Spielberg film, and for the most part, Tom Cruise gives his all in any project he takes on. His run of performances in the 1990s, for example, is stellar. And for me, really, the only performance of his off the top of my head that I think is pretty bad, I mean, again, the movie is not giving him much to do, and I keep repeating that over and over, I know. But yeah, The Mummy from 2017, what a waste of everyone's time. I don't know what happened there. I know they were trying to start a dark universe, and why they would choose to start with a movie that's this terrible, this reliant on CGI. It does not use Tom Cruise well at all. I was thankful we got a much better performance from him a few months later in American Made. In The Mummy, he looks lost at all times. There's a lot of running. If you like Tom Cruise running, you get lots and lots and lots of it in The Mummy, but I think most people agree this is one of Tom Cruise's bottom of the barrel movies. It was meant to start a new franchise, and it failed miserably. Number 4, Lorraine Gary, Jaws: The Revenge.
I'll be all right, Michael.
Good. So will I.
So this is the only name in this video that has shown up in a previous Razzie Top 10 video. The worst performances ever nominated at the Razzies. Jaws: The Revenge is one of the 10 worst films I've ever seen in my life. That movie is so bad on so many levels. I hate Jaws: The Revenge with a passion, and that lead performance by Lorraine Gary, who is very good in the 1975 original, just doesn't cut it. It's very flat. Many of the line readings make you wince. She is not anywhere close to the main problems of that movie, but Lorraine Gary in Jaws: The Revenge doesn't help with a pretty lifeless performance. Number 3, Arnold Schwarzenegger, End of Days.
You think you know bad, huh? You're a choir boy compared to me. A choir boy.
You're in touch with your anger. I really like that.
So in the 1990s, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a pretty big deal. I saw pretty much everything he made. One of the first R-rated films I ever saw was Terminator 2: Judgment Day, and I still think that is one of the landmark action movies of all time. It is spectacular. The first R-rated film I saw in a theater when I was 9 years old was True Lies in 1994. He gives a very good comedic performance in that movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing in that. But after True Lies in 94, we get the diminishing returns when it comes to Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. In 96, we get Eraser, which is pretty good, but not great. Jingle All the Way, and Batman and Robin in 97. Oh boy. And then he didn't appear in a movie for 2.5 years. He comes back at the very end of 99 with End of Days. I was intrigued. I was like, ooh, Arnold's back for the first time in a while in kind of a horror film, a genre movie. Like, I remember my dad and I went opening weekend and I was really excited for it. But that movie landed with a thud. It's so terrible. The story is so ridiculous. And at the heart of it is Schwarzenegger trying to be more of a dramatic actor than he normally is. Like, it's a very serious performance, but it just comes off as silly in a stupid narrative that never goes anywhere interesting. Like, Schwarzenegger can be good in the right project when you know how to use him, but he is not used well in End of Days, and it is a very bad performance. Number 2, Paris Hilton, House of Wax.
Carly, don't even think about not going. I'm not. Good. Because you know how proud I am of you.
So my first memory of House of Wax is that I got a phone call about halfway through the movie and I was perfectly fine stepping out into the hallway to take the call. I knew by like the 40-minute mark this movie wasn't working and I was wasting my time watching it. We got so many horror remakes around this time, starting in 2003 with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre starring Jessica Biel, and then going all the way to Friday the 13th in 2009 and A Nightmare on Elm Street in 2010. Most of these movies suck, and one of the ones that sucks the most is House of Wax from 2005. I mean, the original versions of House of Wax, that one with Vincent Price, is fine. I don't think it's like a classic of the genre, one of the great movies ever. But those early House of Wax movies are way more entertaining than the 2005 remake. And the performance in it that had me rolling my eyes in the theater is Paris Hilton, who gets, let's be honest, a spectacular kill scene. I believe Hilton at the time called it hot. Paris Hilton was never a natural dramatic actress, and she is way out of her element in House of Wax. She sticks out like a sore thumb in a movie that's already making poor choices right from the start. House of Wax is a very bad movie I do not want to ever revisit again, and Paris Hilton's Razzie win for Worst Supporting Actress, yeah, that one can stay. Alright, now we get to my number 1 choice. What do I think is the worst performance in a horror film nominated at the Razzies? I didn't have to think too long about this one. It's Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Eyes! Ah!
Oh, this movie. How I loathe thee. I mean, it's kind of funny at times, let's be honest, but when you look at those clips on YouTube of like 5 minutes of The Wicker Man that makes you laugh, try watching the entire movie. The Wicker Man is not good. It's another horror movie remake of a much better 1970s film starring Christopher Lee. What's amazing is there was so much talent here. Neil LaBute is behind the camera, and Nicolas Cage in 2006, he's still giving very good performances. This is just 4 years after Adaptation, which is one of my favorite Cage performances. He's fantastic in The Weatherman from 2005. He's perfectly fine in World Trade Center, which came out the same summer as The Wicker Man, the summer of 2006. I mean, let me say this off the bat. I typically adore Nicolas Cage. Like, he has 20, 25, maybe more fantastic performances in movies going all the way back to the 1980s. Of course, in the last 15 years or so, he has shown up in a lot of direct-to-video stinkers, but here and there he is bad in a movie that goes to theaters, and one of those films is The Wicker Man. I mean, I think we all knew something was up when they released The Wicker Man very quietly Labor Day weekend. I think the studio knew they had a turd on their hands. And what's frustrating is the story of The Wicker Man is very interesting. You can tell by the 1970s version. And really the main reason why I rank Nicolas Cage as number 1 on this list is that his performance should be better. He comes into this movie basically just playing himself. Scene to scene, he doesn't look to be trying, he's not creating a character in any way. So many of his line readings are flat, comedic, wrong, it just never works. I don't know if Cage could have approached this movie differently to make it better, or if they just should have gone with another actor, but he is all wrong in this. The material should not be this humorous, this silly, and he makes it so from one scene to the next. I mean, that scene with the bees is an all-timer for all the wrong reasons. The Wicker Man could have been good, and it's terrible. It is horrendous. It's one of the worst films I've seen in the last 20 years, easily. It is such a mess, and Nicolas Cage is horrendous in it. I really do feel for you if you had to sit through 2006's The Wicker Man and that truly awful Razzie-nominated performance of Nicolas Cage.